Landlords in San Francisco have filed a lawsuit to try to stop the city's vacant home tax. But will it work? I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the lawsuit the landlords are having against the San Francisco city's vacancy tax. Okay, so basically, back in the last election, a tax was passed, and what they were trying to do, right, is they want to force landlords to rent out the properties that they claim that landlords are keeping empty so that they can help solve the affordable housing crisis, right? Sounds like such a good idealistic vision of what should happen within the city. They'll open up all those empty units and then all of the homeless will have somewhere. No, that's garbage, okay? There are a number of very good reasons why property owners have decided to keep their units vacant, and it is not the right of the city or any government to force a landlord to operate. Okay, if a landlord wants to keep his property empty forever, long as he's willing to pay the bills, he should be allowed to do so. Okay, that is his constitutional right. And that is exactly what they are suing over. Okay. They're saying that, hey, you know what? This new law is unconstitutional. And I agree. I agree. It's complete garbage. It doesn't matter if the electorate voted for it, right? It goes against the Constitution of the United States. It's a taking of private property, in my opinion, okay? Compelling them to use it in a way that they don't want to use it. And that's just not right, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that a law, that forces landlords to rent out their vacant units, or they face penalties of thousands and thousands of dollars if they don't? Do you think that sort of thing is constitutional? You think that the federal courts are going to uphold this law, or they're going to throw this thing out? I mean, this thing has so many problems, and I've gone over it before, but you know what? I'm going to go over it again just in case somebody didn't see my other video. So let's get into the article. This article is coming from the sfist.com, and it says San Francisco landlords have filed a lawsuit trying to stop the city's empty homes tax. An angry group of San Francisco landlords and property owners are taking legal action against the city's recently passed empty homes tax, Proposition M, to try to get it overturned, court records show. Yeah, and this is what we have to do, okay? Rather than politicians talking to landlords, us working out reasonable laws that actually are mutually beneficial for both tenants and landlords. Instead, they create these laws that punish landlords, punish property owners, and you know what? The only thing they're really doing is they are scaring away those few property owners who are still operating within the city. That's why housing is so expensive there, because they keep passing more dumb laws. But anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. The new lawsuit comes from a handful of San Francisco property owners, including Eric DeBain and Andrew DeBain, brothers who own several residential buildings in the city, Robert Friedland, who owns a NOPA apartment building, and Natasha Zek, who owns a Divisadero condo, as well as the San Francisco Apartment Association, the Small Property Owners of San Francisco Institute, and the San Francisco Association of Realtors. It is suing the city and tax collector Jose Cisneros over the legality of the vacancy tax, the San Francisco Standard reported. So yeah, basically all of the big real estate groups within the city, all of the property investors, the realtors, everybody is coming together and they're saying, hey, we have to sue over this. Not only that, but also some large property owners. And believe me when I say this is going to affect not just the big guys, this is going to affect the small property owners as well. Don't believe anybody who says, oh, well, this is just going to hurt the super rich. No, it will hurt everyone. And tenants, when they aren't able to find apartments to rent, they're going to be like, well, I don't know what's going on. Well, maybe it's all the stupid laws you put in place. Okay? This has a cumulative effect on top of things such as rent control and strong eviction protections that make landlords want to leave the business. And there are multiple ways that can happen. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. The tax measure was approved by 54.5% of voters in November last year. And starting in 2024, charges property owners for each unit left unoccupied for more than 182 days annually, only for buildings with three or more units, not single family homes or duplexes. The tax ranges from $2,500 uh, the tax ranges from $2,500 for less than 1,000 square foot units and goes up to $5,000 for units over 2,000 square feet, with increases for inflation over time. Yeah, and keep that in mind, right? They say, oh, well, this doesn't affect the single family homes and the duplexes, right? Well, they don't mention even a small property such as a triplex. Okay. Now, I can tell you for a fact that there are a lot of small landlords who own 3 or 4 unit properties and live in one of the units and then rent out the other ones. I know this because I did it myself, not in San Francisco, but in Tucson, okay? But, nonetheless, I'm sure that there are many buildings just like that where you're going to have a landlord who is living in one of the units and renting out the other two. And guess what? If that landlord decides, well, I don't want to rent out these other 2 units anymore because, all of the different laws and regulations here in the city, well, you're going to be paying a vacancy tax, okay? $2,500 per unit, okay? You are going to be taxed for wanting to keep your own property unoccupied. That is how dumb these laws are. Its goal was to put pressure on landlords to rent out vacant properties and help stabilize rent prices. And the revenue generated from the tax would go towards rent subsidies for seniors and low income households, plus developing affordable housing projects, according to the Chronicle. Reports estimated how many units would be subject to the tax have differed, with the budget and legislative analysts counting about 40,000 units, but the controller's office saying there are only about 4,000 units subject to it. Yeah, they don't even know how many units are going to actually have to pay this tax. And even if they come up with that number, who's to say that it's still wildly inaccurate, because units that they think are empty are just being renovated or are only temporarily empty. Okay, so they're not going to generate nearly as much money as they originally planned. And what are they going to do with this money? Oh, well, I believe they said they were going to use it to help the homeless. Oh yeah, because they don't already have a huge pool of money going to the homeless that just disappears into the thin air. It doesn't go anywhere. The homeless problem still exists, and they just throw more and more money toward it. So you know what? This is just a cash grab. That's what this really is, right? And the large landlords who can afford to pay, if they are subject to it, they're just going to pay. They're not going to suddenly occupy their units. They're not going to be like, oh, well, this place that I was keeping empty. Yeah, now I want tenants in there. No, if they really want to keep it empty, they're going to keep them empty regardless, and then just work those extra taxes that the city's charging them into their costs. Okay. Oh, gosh. This is not a good idea, in my opinion. And, I hope that the landlords, their lawsuit goes through and they get this whole thing thrown out. However, the lawsuit claims that the new tax violates the law and is unconstitutional. The legal filing says that the government cannot compel a property owner to rent his or her property to third parties without violating the takings clause of the U.S. Constitution, the Chronicle also reported. And that's what I agree with, okay? Literally, this is a government taking, okay? Taking of private property for public use. So if a landlord does not want to rent their property, they get taxed. So they're either taking your money or they're taking your property away from you. This is the way the government works, okay? They're power hungry. They just want power and control over everything. And we know deep down, even the progressives know that this is not a solution to the problem. What is the solution? We need to build more. We need more housing units. That's it. Okay, the only way you're going to be able to bring costs down is by building more. Now, keep in mind, San Francisco is one of the most densely, I think it's the second most densely populated major city in the entire country. There isn't a lot of space to build in San Francisco. And the few projects that, they are trying to build, there are so many NIMBYs, the people who say, I don't want that in my backyard. that projects get shut down like that, okay? Then you throw on top of that, the bureaucracy itself is cutting down projects because of stupid environmental regulations or not exactly fitting into code or whatever, right? And it is darn near impossible for them to build anything new. So rather than going about, the difficult process of making it easier to build so that they could have more construction, so there'd be more housing units, they say, well, instead, we're just going to punish landlords. That's the solution to the problem. If we can't get what we want, I mean, what's next? Okay, I could see all sorts of interesting issues coming up. They'll be like, well, you know what? You're a single person living in a 4-bedroom house. You need to fill those other 3 bedrooms. So the city's going to force you to either rent those other bedrooms in your house out, or you pay a yearly fine for living in a house that is too big for your single person. Okay, I mean, why couldn't the city do that as well? If they're compelling landlords to rent out empty units, they could compel a individual homeowner to rent out empty bedrooms. See what I mean? This is why we don't want to go down this path. This is why we need to have our property rights. This is why, this is a government overreach, and this needs to be thrown out by the courts as soon as possible.